Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video. And today I'm going to be talking about a discussion on the Code Lyoko, but I'm going to be talking about my opinion on the ending of the series, of them shutting down the supercomputer. So in Code Lyoko, as we all know, at the ending of the series, they shut down the supercomputer. Now we all know in Code Lyoko, the real broad of the story is behind Aelita Stones, Aelita Hopper, Aelita Shaper. Um, you know, we know whether obviously her name is Aelita Stones on file. And that's where we're kind of going with this. So I don't think the Lyoko Warriors should have shut down the supercomputer at the end of the series. Um, Now, at the end of the series, I watched this obviously when I was a kid, and I'm sure most of you that watch Code Lyoko, since it's been kind of off the air for a long time now. And no, I'm not counting the live action series since, well, not many people really count it anyways. Um, but I want to talk about specifically the ending of season 4, which to me and to many people in the Code Lyoko fandom was the definitive end to Code Lyoko. Um, Now, here's the thing, and I in my last video I did was a theory video, but I did which go ahead and check it out if you hadn't seen it yet. But one of the things that I talked about was Aelita, specifically of within the canon of how old she is. Now we brought up the whole thing about Aelita was trapped in the Lyoko world for 10 years. So when she was 13 years old, she was trapped in the virtual world for 10 years. Okay, which means that technically Aelita should actually be 22 years old. Um, but because she was trapped in Lyoko world, she actually was still 13 years old. Um, which Jeremy obviously brought up to the principal. Um, you know, Now obviously he brought it up in a way to make it seem like it was impossible for Aelita to be in that picture, but obviously Jeremy and the Lyoko Warriors all knew that it was true, but obviously no one would believe that story because it's obviously viewed by regular people. A virtual world like this would be viewed as unrealistic. Okay, because again, Code Lyoko as a show depicts a real world layout. Okay, it is supposed to be a real world layout, with the exception of the virtual world that they go in. That's where all the logic and the fictional stuff gets opened up with it. So, um, because of this, um, this is where the unrealistic nature of them shutting down the supercomputer was a mistake. Okay? So, as we all know, in the final episode, after they had defeated Xana, they ultimately were discussing and arguing on whether they should keep the supercomputer open or shut it down. Ultimately, by the end of the episode, they decided to vote on shutting it down. And at the time when I was a kid, I didn't think anything of it because it was a conclusion to the series. Obviously, I wish the series hadn't ended because I really was into Code Lyoko. Unfortunately, I think it was like the last 5 or 6 episodes were unfortunately exclusively on Cartoon Network Video on the website or whatever at the time because they just took it off TV, which I just think was incredibly stupid at the time. I think it was a contract issue. I know, and there are so many Code Lyoko videos I could bring up. There's so many different things, so many stories that have depicted over the years on what's been going on with Code, what happened to the series. But apparently, Cartoon Network wanted to buy Code Lyoko, and we could talk about that in another video. Ultimately, it didn't happen, and there were other issues that go on. But that's another topic video that could we could talk about later. But I want to talk about specifically this being a mistake, um, for a storyline perspective. Now, obviously, the conclusion of shutting down the supercomputer was a good storyline for in the sense of the series was coming to an end. Okay, so they wanted to close the series. Um, but in the storyline that we were told, it doesn't really make sense for them to have shut down the supercomputer, and here's why. So obviously, we know Aelita as a character is really what the whole story is built on. I'm not saying that the other characters aren't important. Obviously, they were hugely important, but the whole story was around Aelita because Aelita was the person that they were trying to get out of the Lyoko world in the beginning of the series. Then, obviously, when they did get her out of the world, and they got her to the real world, she was still bound to the Lyoko world because they still put a virus trap in her that forced her to, continue fighting in the Lyoko world in season 2. And then, of course, we get the Skipazoa, trying to take her memories, all that stuff, and then, of course, obviously, we find about France Hopper, who is now, we later found out was actually Aelita's father, and we find out all this other stuff about Aelita. Again, the main focus of mostly everything that was going on, besides obviously trying to defeat Xana and save the world, was about Aelita's past and everything about that. Because of this, obviously we know France Hopper is gone. Okay, he sacrificed himself to save Aelita, who had lost her memory. Okay, in I believe that was the end of season. Wasn't season? No, it was at the end of season 2. But when the Skipazoda did get him, and then they had to go to season 3, and then we got to season 4. Yeah, season 4 was when they started doing the real world, virtual world thing too. That was kind of crazy when they were doing that. But yeah, I mean, okay, so when you look at it from that standpoint, okay, it doesn't make any sense for them to shut down the supercomputer because Aelita has no parents. We don't know what happened to her mother. Okay, no, again, we're not counting the 5th season because that was a disaster and, a lot of screw ups with that whole thing. But they really didn't talk about the mother that much in the main Code Lyoko series. Like, we hear about her in flashbacks and stuff like that, but we don't really know that much about her. We know a lot about France Hopper, but we don't know about, which, by the way, for contents, France Hopper isn't even really France Hopper's real name. And we all know Aelita. We all know Aelita's father is France Hopper, but that actually isn't his real name. His real name is France Shaper, because France Shaper is actually his real last name. France Hopper is actually Aelita's mother's last name. He changed his last name to he changed his last name to his wife's last name. Okay, Aelita's mother his last name, because obviously the Men in Black were after him, as we all know. The Men in Black, yes, the Men in Black were after France, so he switched his name to his wife's last name, which, again, I don't know why that would be such a disguise. Oh yeah, the men in black aren't gonna know your wife's last name. So yeah, um, that happened. But anyways, I know a lot of people often get confused by that. But yeah, that is basically how it was. But that's why Aelita's actual name is Aelita Shaper and not Aelita Hopper. Like, that is her real name. Obviously, we know her name is Aelita Stones because that is the last name the Lyoko Warriors gave her, um, as an alias. But the thing is, the school that she's at now, for again, Aelita's at a boarding school, okay? Kind of it's a middle school, high school type deal, but you have the option to live at the school, kind of like a college atmosphere. You're dorming at the school even though you're a middle school and high school student. Okay? Kind of like if you watched Zoe 101, it's kind of like PCA basically. If you watch Nickelodeon shows. That's kind of the equivalence here. Um, so obviously Jeremy created an alias for her and was able to enroll her at the school. They made her Odd's cousin. Odd Robia was her, pretend cousin, okay, from Canada. That was the whole story they gave Aelita to the school. But again, Aelita doesn't have any parents. Okay, and Aelita, um, we know throughout the series that Aelita, multiple times got exposed as being somebody who, was not really supposed to be there. Like, the principal multiple times figured out that Aelita, there was no record of Aelita Stones in Canada or anywhere, or actually being Odd's cousin, because they would call. There was one episode where they called up Odd's parents and they said, "Oh no, we never heard of an Aelita Stone." So this problem doesn't get erased after they turned off the supercomputer. Okay, so this is one of the problems that I think the local Warriors didn't think through. Is like, just because they have now defeated Xana doesn't erase that problem. Yes, they were able to erase those problems in several episodes because of the return to the past feature that they had with the supercomputer after they deactivated a tower, okay, from Xana. But by shutting the supercomputer down, you no longer have the return to the past feature anymore. You know what I'm saying? They don't have that return to the past feature anymore, where they could just because basically the return to the past feature worked for anybody who was a Lyoko warrior or was someone who was programmed to I guess um like in Jeremy's case, was able to um, be able to still not forget anything because he was the programmer, I guess. But eventually, of course, they would solve that problem later on because he would eventually be virtualized later on in the series. But um, but yeah, so that was one of the core issues that prevented the principal and Sissy and other people that tried to expose Aelita as not actually being Odd's cousin. Um, you know that that proved that she doesn't have any parents or whatever. Because again, Aelita right now, is an alias. I mean, she is somebody who was missing for 10 years. And obviously, they can't be like, oh, yeah, she just somehow disappeared for 10 years, never aged, and, here she is. Um, I do would like to know though, because again, this is a French anime, so make no mistake about it. This story does take place actually in France. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure the logistics of how it works in France in terms of the schooling and stuff like that, but I mean, she's specifically enrolled in a boarding school. Okay, and it, I'm pretty sure that would be considered a private school. So wouldn't that cost like money? Like I'm not talking about like obviously you have to go to school no matter what. Taxpayers and all that stuff happens to it, but obviously the logistics of it. I mean, going to a boarding school. I always wondered that too. It was like, yeah, she could go to that school, but it costs money. So like, how do I don't know. I guess that's more of just diving deep into it than than is required at this point. Um, but but yeah, I mean, it's just something that I think really wasn't thought about because it's like, yeah, the supercomputer is gone, Xana is gone, but Aelita's alias is still out there. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like something that is still out there. Um that could eventually get exposed later on. I mean, what are they gonna do? I mean, Aelita literally has to rely on the Lyoko Warriors. Yumi, Ulrich, um, Jeremy, Odd. She pretty much has to rely on them for the rest of her life as a school person and hope that they never get transferred anywhere. Because like Aelita literally has no one else. She doesn't have any parents. I mean, we don't know where her mother is, okay? Because we knew little about her mother and where she is, if she's still alive or if she isn't. We know France is gone, okay? Um, because he was in Lyoko and he sacrificed himself for Aelita. So we don't like know where the mother is, and like she's at a school. I mean, she's living at the school, she's dorming at the school, but like what happens after that? You know what I'm saying? Like what happens after that? Like she's got nothing else. She's got friends, which is great, but I mean, what's left after that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, let's face it. I mean, I know Jeremy has a thing for her. But I mean, really, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, she kind of needs him at this point. She kind of needs him at this point. Like straight up, because I mean, like logistically, you know, she doesn't have anything else. You know, she literally does not have anything else in all seriousness. Um, you know, she has no idea. Like she doesn't know where her mother is. She obviously her father's gone, because he sacrificed herself to save her, and this is why really they should have never shut down the supercomputer, because if an issue comes up, if an issue comes up later on where the principal does find out that Aelita isn't, you know, from Canada or Odd's cousin, they're not going to have the return to the past feature to, you know, change or go back to the past and basically change that specific situation, to prevent it from happening or preventing the principal or whoever from finding out. Now, obviously, they befriended Sissy at the end of the series, which is good because obviously Sissy was also trying throughout the series to get any type of dirt on the Lyoko Warriors. I am. I might bring up that for a future video too about Sissy. Uh, there's so many different things I want to talk about Lyoko. There's so many different theories, so many different things we could talk about Code Lyoko. But I mean, it's kind of a discussion. But I just this is just my personal take on the whole. They should have not shut down the supercomputer. I get why they shut down the supercomputer. They shut down the supercomputer because the series was ending, and this was a way to kind of close out the series in a good way. But looking back on it, I kind of think they should have kept it open. I really do. I think they should have kept it open because obviously storyline wise, it makes more sense in case they have to do a Return to the Past again. If something happens where anybody figures out that Aelita isn't actually who she says she is in terms of being Aelita Stones. Okay? This is something that that they are probably going to need that return to the past. And shutting down the supercomputer is kind of a mistake in that sense. By shutting it down, you are basically alienating that possibility where you are going to essentially be having Aelita looking over her shoulders for however long she's at that school. Okay? And obviously she's probably going to be at the school until she graduates because obviously there's nowhere for her to go, and obviously she has friends that are supporting her. But I mean, again, she doesn't have active parents, how long can they protect her from any of those people that try to figure out who she is, because obviously they would take her in for questioning and stuff like that, especially if she's related to France Hopper. They figure that out, then they're going to be like, oh yeah, we probably should take her in and question her. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's going to be stuff like that, yeah, there's a lot. They'll be like, well, how are you still a kid or something like that? Like, I mean, there's a lot of crazy things that they could do, because again, obviously we know the Men in Black that went after France Hopper, they were dead serious on him. Like, in the storyline, we seen it. They were dead serious on trying to get him, and so they would have a lot of questions for Aelita if they found out who she was. So that's kind of my thing on this. This is kind of a just open discussion. I just am curious what other people think on this. On how they think that should have been gone. Do you guys think that they should have shut down the super? Do you think Jeremy was right in shutting down the supercomputer? That's basically kind of the question. I personally think it's not. I think it was the wrong decision to shut down the supercomputer. Looking back at it now, I think, from a strategic standpoint of where Aelita is as a character, it just doesn't make any sense to shut down the supercomputer, because in case they have to use a Return to the Past, if somebody finds something out. Obviously, if it's very easy to get pictures of Aelita with France Hopper, spouting around everywhere, like we've seen in one of the few episodes before the season finale, obviously there is a possibility that someone else could do that down the road. So this is something that I don't think Jeremy and others took into account. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Let me know what you guys think. Comment, rate, if you like my videos, please subscribe, hit the notification bell for latest content. Thank you. And that's about it, guys. I am the Ultimate Goku, and I'm out of here. Peace. Also, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow the Twitch, the Instagram, all the SS Ultimate Goku. I also have a Discord link in the description where we discuss various topics, including this one here. So make sure to check that out. And now I'm out. Peace.